Right, let's carry on with Assault Rifle, best in slot. Right, we're going to be going over some Heartbreaker builds today, and first of all we need to dissuade some points about what the best AR for Heartbreaker or even Pulse builds actually really are. And a lot of people at this point are going to go, well, Kingbreaker. And although on paper this is kind of correct, there is just two issues with it. The first one being the accuracy of the weapon. It's not a very accurate weapon, and when you're having to build stacks by hitting a pulse target, having accuracy is going to be a huge clincher. So it's because of this you might actually find other weapons are able to outperform Kingbreaker even with perfect flatline, simply because you're able to build stacks quicker due to the fact that the Kingbreaker itself is not that much of an accurate weapon. You can supplement this by putting attachments in or even weapon handling if you wanted to, but now you're taking away from your overall build. So now you've got to factor in still less accuracy and the fact that you're now just going to be doing less damage overall, or a lower crit chance or crit damage. The second one is going to be the fire rate. Due to Heartbreaker being twofold in its stacks, one giving more damage, two giving you more armor, the quicker you're able to build stacks, the better off you actually are. Now I've checked with a variety of different sources, and Rousey coming in clutch. Turns out that using the Police M4, I can't believe I'm saying this, using the Police M4, by the time you get to 20 stacks, so you fire 20 bullets, the Kingbreaker will have only fired roughly 14 or 15. At which point, even including flatline versus perfect flatline, the Police M4 will do more in terms of DPS than the Kingbreaker. The difference here is, by the time you hit 50 or 100 stacks, despite the fact that during this build up the Police M4 will be doing more, the moment Police M4 hits max stacks, Kingbreaker at this point is now playing catch up, and it catches up fast. Once Kingbreaker hits max stacks, it will be doing a good chunk more than the Police M4. In short, what I'm saying here is, while building stacks, the Police M4 is better, but once you're at max stacks, the Kingbreaker is better. Accuracy is still going to come into play here, so it really is dealer's choice. They're both about as good as each other in reality. It is then just going to be dependent on how you want to play. Do you want the slower, bigger hits but also less accurate, or do you want lower but more hits, more accurate? It's also going to be dependent on how well you're playing and at what range. If you're closer range, you shouldn't really have a problem with TKB. If you like staying a bit more at range, the Police M4 is going to be the better option. It is also at this point where I do need to reiterate that while at max stacks, the Kingbreaker, the gap is actually pretty damn big, being anywhere from 6 to 10% depending on the build you're using. Now, I'm aware in my previous video I did show that I'm using a build where it's 10% below the high-end best in slot. However, I've changed other things around, so I'm making concessions in various places on the build. I'm not just changing weapon. This is the exact same build, I'm just changing weapon, and the drop is 6 to 10%. This is actually pretty big. So, to start things off, we have this build. It's a slow start. However, at maximum, it does have high DPS. It's 142 critical hit damage, 60% crit chance. It has good armor, though it is stack dependent. And this is the big problem with all Heartbreaker builds, bar 2, is even though like with strikers, it is stack dependent, but due to the increase in fire rate, it gives you more to start with. Heartbreaker simply doesn't. So while you don't have stacks, it is pretty, I'm not going to say terrible, but it's pretty bad. But once you start building stacks, even at the halfway point, it can get pretty damn good, simply just because of how it allows more multiplicative damage to come in through uses of spotter, flatline, even glass cannon if you wanted. You can get a lot more going on. So we have 4-piece Heartbreaker, Coyote's Mask, and then a Cheska backpack. I've left the talent untouched because I'm pretty sure people are bored of me saying Vigilance by now, but Vigilance, Unstoppable Force and Composure will be your best bets depending on how you wish to play. I also do weirdly know that a lot of people like to run Bloodsucker and Adrenaline Rush with their Heartbreaker builds. So I've left it untouched, your choice. Vigilance will be best in slot though. So the top build here, there's a lot to look at, but the top build is Perfect Glass Cannon, which I went over in the previous video. The next build down, Heartbreaker Coyotes with Seska, that's with 0 stacks. It will do 63% of the Perfect Glass Cannon build. The next one down, where it's 102 to 89%, 102 headshot, 89 body, that's at half stacks, so 50 stacks. And then the very bottom one, where it's doing 130 to 119%, is at max stacks. Now for the DPS calculations, I've gone with the Police M4, not the Kingbreaker, because I personally feel it's more feasible to hit max stacks more effectively with a faster, more accurate weapon such as the Police M4 than it is the Kingbreaker. Up next, we have the Pristine Example build. So Seska backpack, Pristine Example, 4-piece Heartbreaker. This is 2 stack dependent, 1 stack being Heartbreaker, 2 being Focus. It does require a scope. It has stupid levels of DPS, however, due to the fact that you've got 105% in headshot damage, it is going to be more orientated towards aiming at the enemy heads. Although it still does a lot more damage on body shots, you are going to see a larger jump on the headshots. To show this, we have more DPS charts. Yay! So, Pristine Example at 0 stacks on Heartbreaker will do 96 and 82% of the glass cannon build, and then at max stacks on headshot it does 145, which is 45% more, and then on body shots 23% more. So it is a lot more damage even on body shots. However, there's another 20% boost on hitting the headshots. So although you aren't required to hit the headshots with 105% headshot damage being scoped in, I would heavily suggest you aim more towards the head. Now for the last build, which is simultaneously the strongest but also the weakest out of the best in slot, it's a bit weird. And the reason for this is it doesn't rely on Heartbreaker stacks. Now with the Pristine Example build, although I've removed Heartbreaker stacks for the first part of the DPS show, I still include Focus being at maxed. If we removed Focus being at max, we actually drop down to 55% of the Perfect Glass Cannon build. With the build that I'm about to show, without stacks, we're still at like 70%. So it's completely not reliant on stacks. The stacks are a nice benefit. However, the top end damage is only just ever so slightly higher than the Perfect Glass Cannon build. It's actually the build I'm running in the background footage in this video. So we have 4-piece Heartbreaker, a Seska backpack, I'm running Vigilance but it's up to you, and then a named Uzina chest for closer. It is a unicorn drop, it is bloody hard to get, it's got to come with crit chance and crit damage so you can change the core to weapon damage. However, there is also an alternative in case you struggle with this, and it's just simply swap the chest to Fenris with Spotter, and that basically covers you. You could also potentially go Grupo, however this is a slight DPS decrease. However, it will allow you to get maximum benefits from using your secondary weapon, which I'm assuming most people would run the ACS 12. Now, this is the DPS for both the closer at 0 stacks and at max, as well as Fenris at 0 and at max. Closer is going to be slightly more DPS, but not by much, like 0.5% in most cases. However, the one real benefit to this build is for smaller and shorter engagements, it completely outperforms all of the others. It will take any of the other builds to get to 40 for the Pristine build or 60 stacks for the normal Heartbreaker with Coyote's Mask build to even close the gap on what this build is capable of. However, once you hit max stacks, it kind of drops immediately, at which point both the other builds very quickly overtake. So shorter engagements, this build is probably the best, but for missions or longer engagements and varying events, the other two builds completely and utterly outperform it. Anyway, that is it for this video. Have fun, good luck, don't die, it's bad for the health.